What is up, family? We have another Patreon request. It's part 2 of the French Revolution, Oversimplified. The French Revolution, where the French got sick and tired of sitting around paying massive amounts of taxes, barely being able to eat. Finally got, wait a minute, that's kind of like what's happening today in a lot of places. Anyway, so they finally got sick and tired of it and decided to revolt. And I'm all for it. All for it, baby. All for it. Let's go. What's part 2 about?
King Louis and his family were now in the Tuileries Palace in Paris, where for the next couple of years, he watched as the revolutionary government began to strip away his power. And fearing for his safety, he had to stay on their good side. Hey, look who it is. It's my favorite revolutionaries. Yep, I'm your #1 fan. What can I do for you? Hey, King Louis, so we've made a few decisions. First, all of your friends in the nobility are going to have to pay taxes the same as everyone else. Great idea. I love it. And as a side note, the tax money can no longer pay for all your lavish parties. Great. I hate those parties. They're so awkward. And also, we're taking away your Porsche. Oh, come on! I mean, yay. The king continually found demand after demand being made of him to prove his support for the revolution. On one occasion, a mob would invade the palace and demand he wear the revolutionary bonnet. This is the face of a man who is definitely pretending he wants to wear that bonnet. Now around here, I want to mention that one thing King Louis had a problem with was people constantly raiding his palace. But one thing he didn't have a problem with was raiding noobs on this video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
Nice. Nice way to throw that in there, buddy. Nice.
Oh yeah. Seeing the situation rapidly turning against him, the king decided it might be a good idea to leave France and mount a campaign to retake his country from abroad. Luckily for him, he was married to an Austrian. So on the night of June 20th, 1791, the king and his family disguised themselves as servants and attempted to flee to the Austrian Netherlands. The royal carriage made a stop in the town of Varennes, and the postmaster there was like, "Hey guys, what's up? Where are you off to?"
Wait a minute, she's still with him? Because, she liked a lot of this, and she liked buying lavish things. So I'm surprised, that she's not like, what? We lost the Porsche? Oh, I'm divorcing you. I'm out of here. So she's still hanging in there.
We are but a collection of inconspicuous servants heading for the border for no particular reason at all. Say, you, the fat one, you look kind of familiar.
Oh, damn.
Aren't you the king? Nope. Let me see your passport. It says here you're King Louis the 16th. Nope, not me. Take him away, boys. The king was promptly returned to Paris, but now the jig was up. His lack of support for the revolution was clear to all, and many considered him a straight-up traitor who tried to abandon his people. As a result, the new constitution of 1791 completely reduced his powers to that of a simple figurehead, a constitutional monarch. However, radicals, such as those in the Jacobin club, were outraged that the king wasn't to be removed entirely. So a month later, these radicals staged a protest on the Champ de Mars.
Surprised they didn't just behead him, because that's what they did back in the day.
Calling for the king's removal. The government of Paris feared an insurrection was mounting, and they sent the military to disperse the crowd. The confrontation escalated and resulted in the Revolutionary National Guard firing on a crowd of revolutionaries. It was a massacre. The incident exposed a deep division within the Brotherhood of the Revolution.
It's like blue and red.
On one side, the moderates who wanted to keep the king as a figurehead. On the other, radicals who wanted to see the king deposed and heads roll. In the wake of the massacre, these radicals received a wave of support. And speaking of rolling heads, one form of equality the revolution introduced was equality in execution. This meant no more torturous drawing and quartering, no more inhumane hanging. They wanted all criminals, regardless of economic status, to receive the same penalty, a quick and painless one.
Yeah, just wait. Well, I don't know. I always say, an eye for an eye. Whatever you did should be done to you. That's the way I feel. But, okay, it's fine. A quick and painless one. Yeah, just get it over with. Boom, shot in the head, done.
Luckily, a man by the name of Dr. Joseph Guillotine had...
What a crazy name, huh? Guillotine?
...an idea. A heavy blade that falls like thunder. The head flies off, blood spurts, and the man is no more. The guillotine.
No way, that was introduced just then? No. What?
Otherwise known as the National Razor. The guillotine made its debut in 1791 as the new form of execution. the writings of Marat and others continued to call for the execution of anyone suspected of working against the revolution. For him, this included some members of the clergy and nobility who had previously benefited from the cruel system of inequality that existed before the revolution. In many parts of the countryside, local lords had found themselves become a target. Sire, the peasants, they're revolting.
Wait, I have a question. Just one little question. How did they know it's painless and quick? Just want to know, like, did they ask somebody without a head and say, hey, did that hurt? He was like, yeah. No, that didn't hurt at all. I didn't feel nothing. Just straight up died. That was it. I'm just curious, like, how do they actually know that? Like when you cut a snake's head off or something, or a chicken's head off, they're like still, there's something still going on. You know what I mean? The nervous system is still intact. So how do they really know? Like, I think a bullet to the head is probably less painless than being beheaded. Why am I talking about this? Okay, anyway.
Oh, come on. That's a bit harsh. Sure, they smell a bit, but I wouldn't say they're revolting.
Smell a...
Oh, yes. I see what you mean. Increasingly, these French aristocrats began fleeing France to find solitude in other parts of Europe. And once again, fear began to take hold. The privileged classes of these foreign nations didn't like what they were seeing because they feared revolutionary ideas may spread to their own lands. The National Assembly, actually now the Legislative Assembly, feared that these nations may decide to attack. Then why don't we attack them first? No, you idiots, we are definitely not ready for war yet. Did somebody say something? France declared war on Austria in April 1792 and immediately got pummeled. It also didn't help that Austria's ally, Prussia, joined in the fighting. The Prussian Duke of Brunswick posted a letter warning the revolutionaries that if anything happened to the king, he would burn Paris to the ground. The Duke's letter proved to be a massive success in inspiring the people of Paris to do the exact opposite of what he intended. They were enraged by the threat, and on the 10th of August 1792, the tension in the city exploded, and a mob stormed the king's palace. Fighting broke out between the revolutionaries and the king's Swiss guard, with casualties in the hundreds. King Louis fled and took refuge in the chamber of the Legislative Assembly, where Robespierre and his radical Jacobins were gaining ever more power.
They always flee, by the way. They always flee. The ones who start wars and are in the wars and have the highest level of rank always flee. Always. Not on ground like that rank, you know what I mean? Like a lieutenant, captain, not sergeant, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about, kings, politicians, presidents, mayors, governors, they're the first ones to flee.
Given the developing situation, the chamber decided to hold a vote, and in what some considered to be a second revolution, it was decided to suspend the monarchy entirely. King Louis XVI was now just plain old Louis, and he was sent to a prison cell where an eye could be kept on him. A month later, the newly established National Convention officially declared the French Republic, and society underwent a massive change. Enlightened ideas of democracy and equality were being implemented, but very quickly, these ideas seemed to become secondary to fear, paranoia, and a thirst for blood. The new republic began working to violently remove any semblance of the old royalist regime. The church became a prime target. Priests who refused to take an oath to the revolution were deported or arrested. A new state-sponsored atheistic religion named the Cult of Reason was created as a replacement for the Catholic Church. Notre Dame, along with many other churches, had their religious treasures destroyed and were converted to temples of reason. Even the Christian calendar didn't survive, as a brand new revolutionary calendar was soon introduced. Hey honey, I'm home. Yeah, whatever.
What did I just...
Is a brand new...
100 minutes per hour, 100 seconds per minute, 10 hours a day. Oh, okay.
Revolutionary calendar was soon introduced.
Interesting.
Hey honey, I'm home. Yeah, whatever, jerk. Whoa, what's wrong with you? You forgot. Forgot what? Everything. This entire year. My birthday was on the 3rd of Germinal, our anniversary was the 12th of Thermidor, and you promised that in Frimaire, we'd go on a romantic weekend trip to Venice. No, I said we'd do that in December. December hasn't been a thing for years. The government of Paris, now under the control of the radical sans-culottes, began rounding up suspected enemies of the revolution and sending them to prison in the thousands. Naturally, a large number of those arrested were members of the clergy and aristocracy. As France's foreign enemies continued to close in, panic spread. Georges Danton made impassioned calls for men to defend the Republic, and tens of thousands of troops left Paris for the front lines. However, in their absence, Paris was left to its own devices. As enemy troops arrived in Verdun, the people of Paris feared that their crowded prisons were becoming a breeding ground for counter-revolutionary conspiracy. What would happen if the Prussians reached Paris and freed the aristocrats? Marat believed he knew what would happen. The aristocrats would enact their vengeance on the people. Fearing those they had already imprisoned, mobs descended on Paris's prisons. They broke in, and during the brutal September massacres, aristocrats, priests, and others were tried and executed on the spot. Even women and children weren't spared.
Crazy.
With over 1,600 victims, word of the massacre spread across Europe.
That's
One British
crazy.
newspaper wondered, are these the rights of man? Is this the liberty of human nature? But there was still one man in particular that Robespierre and his radicals really wanted to see executed. Austria and Prussia pledged that after they defeated France, they'd return King Louis to the throne. Well, checkmate Austria and Prussia, because you can't return a man to the throne if he's already dead. Citizen Louis Capet was put on trial for treason. Obviously, he was found guilty, but his punishment was less certain. Many moderates wanted to simply deport him, but Robespierre insisted the revolution could only live if the king was dead. A vote was held, and by just one vote, Louis was sentenced to the guillotine. If you don't mind, I'd like to say a few words first. Gentlemen, I am innocent of everything of which I am accused. Wait, you're too loud. They can't hear me. Hang on, I haven't finished yet. Wait, dude.
Yep.
Uncool.
Uncool.
In her prison cell, Marie Antoinette heard the guns fire, signaling her husband's death. Before long, she would meet the same fate.
Oh, really?
Back on the war front, France defied all
They beheaded
expectations
everybody
and
back
actually
then.
managed to push the enemy back. But then more countries joined the coalition against France, and it all went to pot again. What do? Conscript the masses. The National Convention introduced a conscription law, with each regional department having to meet a certain quota of men for the army. However, not everyone was happy with this new law. You see, while Paris was definitely a hotbed for radical revolutionary fervor, some of the regions outside of Paris weren't quite so keen on the revolution. Some were largely still conservative, still supported the church, and just didn't suffer from that much inequality before the revolution. So as the revolution turned increasingly violent and anti-Christian, many were outraged. Now, they were being conscripted to fight for the new republic they hated. That was the last straw. Counter-revolutionary uprisings erupted in a number of regions across France. Some would last for years, such as in the northwest, where a large-scale uprising was led by the Owls. Why were they called the Owls? Because their leader was named Jean Owl. Why was he called Jean Owl? Possibly because he could do a really good impression of an owl. Really?
I don't think so.
That's what we're going with? Owls? Just because this guy can do an impression of one? Hit him with it, Jean. Hoot, hoot. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good.
Wow.
The Chouannerie uprising lasted all
videos
the
are
way
funny.
until 1800. In the summer of 1793, the southern city of Toulon invited the British Navy over for some tea and crumpets. And then they asked if they'd possibly like to stay and occupy the city. Being an important naval base, this was a heavy blow to the Republic, who sent a relatively unknown young captain by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte to help stage the siege of the city. Toulon was recaptured by France in the winter, and for his service, Napoleon was promoted to the rank of Brigadier General. The most infamous counter-revolution,
hooray.
however, occurred in the Vendée region. Throughout 1793, revolutionary forces clashed with the region's Catholic and Royal Army. The Republic defeated the counter-revolution through cruel pacification. In particular, General Jean-Baptiste Carrier committed brutal atrocities. In one instance, he had thousands of civilians, priests, women, and children tied to ships, which were then sunk.
What the hell's wrong with people? Seriously. What is wrong with people? The way they think. Women and children, man. I don't understand. It's crazy.
Carrier would later be found guilty of war crimes
You think?
and executed.
Oh, good.
Back in Paris.
See, that's the guy who should have been tortured. Not just, quick and easy death. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. Somebody who kills women and children, slowly attached to a ship. Like, he should have drowned. I would have drowned him. That's what, like, you're going to go through the same thing. We're going to drown you. And that's it. I don't know. Just like, you should at least know what you caused and feel that same pain.
The government was still dominated by moderates. With the war going badly, revolts in the provinces, and the economy getting worse, it seemed the government just wasn't doing a very good job. Radicals' fear for the safety of the revolution intensified, and Marat even began calling for the moderates in the government to be executed. In return, the moderates called for the arrest of Marat. This led to a chain of events with the two sides in heated conflict. Robespierre declared the Jacobins to be an insurrection and called on the people to arm themselves. It all ended on the 31st of May 1793 with the National Convention surrounded by radical sans-culottes and 29 moderate Girondin politicians arrested. From this moment on, the moderates ceased to be a political force. Robespierre and his radicals would be in almost total control of the government. And this brings us to the story of a woman named Charlotte Corday. Charlotte lived in the northwest city of Caen, and like many in the area, was horrified at the rapid radicalization and increasing violence of the revolution. And the man she blamed more than anyone was Jean-Paul Marat. She wanted to bring peace back to France, and so she did something drastic. She traveled to Paris and told Marat she had a list of enemies for him to publish in his paper. Marat eagerly invited her in for a meeting. So where's that list of enemies you promised me? Here it is. Wait a minute. This isn't a list of enemies. It just says, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Oh, no
And
way.
just like that.
No way. Wow. A woman avec des couilles.
Marat was no more.
That's
Charlotte
beautiful.
was quickly arrested.
Yeah, of course, but she did what she did what she had to do, in my opinion.
And sent to the guillotine.
Oh, hold on a second. Okay, let's continue this. Knowing phone calls.
Her dream of restoring peace, however, died with her. Marat became a martyr. In temples of reason, symbols of the dead Marat became the new crucifix. In death, he became an even more powerful inspiration.
Wow, that's surprising.
For the extreme levels of violence that were about to rip throughout the new republic. And that's right, here comes the Reign of Terror. If you thought this revolution already sounds pretty violent, well, you ain't seen nothing yet, son. The radicals were now in control, and they believed not only was France surrounded by foreign enemies, but that within the masses, there were also plenty of internal ones too. Individuals not loyal to the revolution, conspiring to bring about its downfall. Robespierre and the rest of the radical faction were having none of it. A new committee of public safety was established with 12 members. Its purpose was to protect the new French Republic from its enemies, and it basically became a 12-man dictatorship with Robespierre as its leading voice. The Revolutionary Tribunal was also reinstated, a special court created to streamline the process of trying suspected enemies and handing out their death sentences. With these two new institutions, Robespierre wanted to scare France's enemies straight. In September 1793, it was announced that terror would be the order of the day. In other words, fear had become official government policy. And from then onwards, we enter into the period known as the Reign of Terror. Spies and secret police were everywhere and watched the people closely. France's public had to be extremely careful what they said and how they behaved.
Oh, it's like North Korea, basically.
Obviously, criticizing this new system, or the government, would quickly have you sent off to the guillotine.
Yep.
But that's not all. Even the most minor offense could have you tried before the Revolutionary Tribunal. Hello, Citizen Martin. Hello, Monsieur Dubois. Monsieur? Did I just hear you say Monsieur? That's the old style of address, my friend. To the guillotine! You know what? I didn't like him, but I do feel kinda bad for the king and his family. Oof, expressing sympathy for the royal family, are we? To the guillotine! 12 sous for a loaf of bread? That's way overpriced. To the guillotine! Man, this bread line is taking forever. To the guillotine!
Wow.
And you?
Can you imagine?
You look like you're thinking anti-revolutionary thoughts.
To the guillotine.
Max, we're sending way too many
Oh
people
my
to the guillotine. To the guillotine! Chop, 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 chop.
Oh my God, the fucking phone. Okay, the nerve of people wanting, IT support while I'm making videos, The nerve of people, seriously. Chop, 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 chop.
Chop, 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 chop. It was insane.
Phone rings, guillotine. Oh.
All across France, about 40,000 people were killed for suspected crimes
Dude, that's insane. That's really crazy.
against liberty. Let's say your neighbor won't stop mowing the lawn at 7 in the morning. Well,
Guillotine.
then all you gotta do is tell the government they've been talking smack about the revolution, and there's a good chance they'll end up in front of the Revolutionary Tribunal. Maybe they'll even be executed, taking a metaphorical load off your shoulders and a literal one off theirs. The most prominent victim of the Reign of Terror was a certain Marie Antoinette, who was finally tried and found guilty of treason in 1793. She expected she'd be brought to the guillotine in a royal carriage.
Did you see her hair? Star Wars. Oh my God.
Fit for a queen, all the Republic could provide for her, however, was a wooden tumbril.
Oh.
At 37 years old, the most hated woman in French history met her end on the 16th of October, 1793.
Wow.
Robespierre had saved the revolution through terror. Internal dissent was being suppressed. The food situation was no longer quite as bad. Even the French military had got its act together again and pummeled the Allies at the Battle of Fleurus. For Danton and his followers, the time was right to try to normalize the French Republic. Hey Robespierre, so we were thinking that since things are finally going better, maybe we should rein in the terror. And while we're on it, we could possibly start taking it easier on the church, and also try to end this costly war. Oh, crap. As time went on, Robespierre seemed to go, for lack of a better term,
Unbelievable.
a bit mental. He was hell-bent on creating what he
A bit mental, you think?
called a republic of virtue, and for him, this meant amping up the bloodshed even more. Throughout the spring and summer of 1794, executions reached an unprecedented level during a period known as the Great Terror. Even those closest to him found their way to the guillotine if they dared oppose his ideas and actions, and he began alienating himself from the rest of the convention. He created a new deistic religion called the Cult of the Supreme Being,
Seriously, how do you leave somebody like that in power?
along with the new annual Festival of the Supreme Being. Man, I think Robespierre is really starting to lose it. He thinks he's a god or something. Nonsense. Sure, he's gone a little extreme, but he doesn't think he's a god. My children, bathe your immortal souls in the virtue of my republic. Okay, yeah, he's completely lost it. Robespierre's ultimate mistake, however, came on July 26th, when he made a speech to the National Convention, in which he said this: I have in my hand a brand new list of enemies to be sent to the guillotine, and many of you are on this list, but I'm not going to tell you who yet. What do you think of that? I think we should send Robespierre to the guillotine first.
There you go. There
All
you
in favor?
go.
Oh, no. 2 days later, Robespierre became the final victim
Well, there you go. See? Simple solution. Should have been done months and months ago.
of the monstrous terror and paranoia he had created.
Unbelievable people.
Many historical accounts of the revolution end here with the death of Robespierre and his terror. But the revolution officially continued for another 5 years, until 1799. So what happened between now and then? Well, after the fall of Robespierre, a more moderate political group called the Thermidorians took control of the convention. They wanted to restore stability to the government. Now, Robespierre's allies and other radicals who had fueled the terror themselves became the target of political suppression. Bourgeois street fighters took on the radical sans-culottes in the streets during a period named the White Terror. In 1795, the Thermidorians drafted a new constitution and created a government called the Directory, with the purpose of preventing power from being able to fall into the hands of a single individual again. As this new government was being established, royalists who wanted to bring the monarchy back to France saw this moment as an opportunity to strike. They staged an insurrection in Paris and battled with the National Guard in the streets. Luckily, one Napoleon Bonaparte happened to be in Paris at the time, and he took control of the situation, firing on the crowd and putting down the insurrection. From this moment on, the people of Paris would never again be able to stage a popular uprising and lost their control over the revolution. For his actions, Napoleon became a general and was sent to take control of the French armies in Italy. The new Directory remained a fairly ineffective government for the remainder of the revolution. It was plagued with corruption and struggled to keep the economy afloat, and as a result,
You mean because... Oh, because they were taking the money instead of using it for the country and the people, huh? It's happening today as well.
wasn't very popular. For the people of France, with the strict social customs of both royalist France and the terror gone, they didn't really know what to do with themselves. Men no longer removed their hats when talking to women. Different classes began intermingling, and a publication began circulating that looked a lot like a modern dating app. It was social anarchy. Outside of France, the war continued. In 1795, France took the Netherlands, where they set up a puppet state. Then they negotiated both Prussia and Spain out of the war. The British attempted to land French royalists in the west to reinforce rebellion, but that plan failed. In 1796, the French planned a three-pronged attack with the aim of marching on Vienna and knocking Austria out of the war. The two northern armies were defeated and forced to retreat. However, Napoleon in the south, with groundbreaking military strategy, won battle after battle after battle. He pushed the Austrians out of Italy and began closing in on Vienna. The Austrians freaked out, and Napoleon oversaw the signing of a peace treaty. He had almost single-handedly knocked Austria out of the war, and by the way, he was only 28.
That's crazy.
So maybe it's about time you moved out of your mom's basement. Napoleon became a famous
This guy's good.
hero among the French people, but his aspirations were still higher. He briefly went off to Egypt and discovered a bunch of gnarly Egyptian stuff, but then the British destroyed his fleet and trapped his forces. Say, Napoleon, sir, you're not going to leave us here stuck in Egypt and return to France, are you? Nonsense, my boy. I would never dream of abandoning my loyal soldiers. Wow, what's that over there? On his return to Paris, Napoleon found himself to be extremely popular, and the government extremely unpopular, and he started getting some power-hungry ideas. Conveniently, a politician named Emmanuel Joseph Sieyès approached Napoleon and said, "Hey man, since you're so popular, do you want to help me stage a coup?" "Great idea. Let's stage a coup, and then I'll coup you." What? Napoleon, with the help of his politician brother, entered the government chamber, possibly got punched in the face, and finally his troops intimidated the council to dissolve the government and create a new constitution that basically made Napoleon a dictator. So there you have it, the French Revolution, born with the great promise of liberty and equality. The common people dared challenge an oppressive system that had existed for centuries. But before they knew it, they found liberty sidelined by terror, equality that possibly didn't quite hit the mark, and an absolute monarchy replaced by an absolute dictator. Napoleon began stabilizing French society.
Until they didn't kill him, right? They deported him somewhere, and he just kind of, like, if I recall the story, he kind of just died of old age wherever they deported him to. He didn't live so badly. He actually lived quite well. It's just he was bored. It's Napoleon. Needed some action.
He restored the Catholic Church and got rid of that crazy calendar, among other things.
That crazy calendar really was crazy.
But he remained ever ambitious. He was France's first consul, but he slept soundly at night dreaming of being something even bigger. Napoleon's expansionist aspirations, combined with the ongoing conflict in Europe, would eventually lead the continent into a huge conflict known today as...
Uh-oh. More to see, possibly. This guy's so good at telling stories. I'm sure there are some inadequate, little pieces that just aren't truly true. Maybe a little exaggerated. But overall, I think we get the gist of it, right? We all get the gist of it. Like in the other video, part 1, I saw some comments where she said, just give them cake. And you guys are like, no, she never said that. She never said that about the cake. I'm like, okay, damn. Like, okay. Okay. Not the end of the world, is it? But anyway, it just, just obviously this. Is it 100% factual? How can we really know? But again, if this guy was a history teacher, I tell you, a lot of kids would come out of school with an overall understanding of what happened in other countries, how other things developed other than where you live, only where you live. And kids would actually be interested. But today, I tell you, you ask a kid, at least here in this country, ask him anything about what happened in another country. Hell, you could ask them anything of what happened in the United States, and they wouldn't know. They don't know. They're clueless. It's either the teachers are just horrific and just don't get the points across, or it's just not even being taught anymore, or there's just zero interest. It's just like, oh no, you only need to know what happened here in America. And again, they don't even know that. Trust me, they don't. You ask them anything. Hell, you've seen those TikTok videos, right? These people don't even know, like, if you have $1 and somebody takes away 35 cents, how much do you have left? And they're like, 40 cents. And it's like, yes, you're right. Like, that's the kind of generations that are being brought up today. I know. Are they staged? I don't know. Can people really be that stupid and just clueless? I don't know. Let's just pray that all those videos with the younger generations, literally knowing nothing, like you could ask them, like, what's the capital of the United States? And they have no clue. Seriously. So it's either staged because, it's going to get views on TikTok, or it really is that bad. It really is that bad. So I say, if you had this kind of a history lesson taught like this, just like this, I'm telling you, the kids would walk out of the history class and be like, I can't wait what we're learning tomorrow. Like, what are we going to learn tomorrow, Mr. Smith, Mr. History Teacher Smith, what's tomorrow? Like, you would be excited, but they just don't know how to teach anything really, that keeps you. I know for me, as soon as I went into history and the guy was talking like, and this is what happened, and then Spain did this, and Christopher Columbus did that, and it was just like, I don't know. Just saying. History's important. It has to be important. Yes, you could sit there and go, well, what do I really care about this? How does this affect me in my today living, job, family, where I live, how I pay my bill? Like, why do I even need to know this information? And, it's sad. There's a lot of people that think that way. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting. It gives you a little bit of a clue. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm so smart, I know everything now. But you can at least not be like, somebody says Napoleon, you can be like, okay, I know who that is, Or some people will be like, Napoleon what? There was a movie with him, right? Like, they don't even know. Anyway, whatever. Well, I'm going to ask my daughter just for fun. Do you know who Napoleon is? I want to see what her answer is. She'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, yeah, explain. Who is he? Wasn't he some guy in France? Like, oh, God. Anyway, we'll see. I think these videos are great. Okay, take care. Peace out. Have a good night.